everyone, I hope you're doing well today. Again, no makeup. I've only addressed my brows a little bit because they were just kind of everywhere. But what I wanted to go over today is creative concealing. And I'm going to include several tips and tricks about ways to counteract issues you might have, whether you have under eye circles or with age, perhaps you have maturing skin and you maybe have deep set nasolabial folds. You have a blemish you can't seem to cover that's like blinking red. Whatever your issues might be, hopefully this video will be helpful for you, and I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into it. Now, I've already done a video called kind of like high performance concealer. So if you haven't watched that, I do encourage you to watch that when you're finished with this. I'll link it in the down bar below. That just goes over all of the products that I use in more depth, but I'll try to touch on a lot of the things today as well. Okay, so basically my first issue is just going to be a standard blemish. And I think you can see I have one just right here, lightly right in between my eyes. And for that, I'm just going to use MAC Prolongwear Concealer. And I'm just gonna take it just like a standard small brush. This is the shadow brush, but I actually like to use this for concealing, and it's brush number 26, and it's from the Sephora Professional series. But you just take a regular, just a small brush. If you don't have a small concealer brush or a brush you like for that, you can always use a clean eyeshadow brush. You can also use your fingers as well, but if you're going to be dipping into a product and you have issues with blemishes, you want to make sure that you always use something clean in the product you're using, because you don't want to transfer the bacteria back and forth. You can always go back and reapply it a few times if you need to, but you just basically want to touch on it. You don't want to use too much of a heavy hand when you're blending it, because then it's just going to aggravate your issue and your blemish. Now, you can do this under or over your foundation, but again, I'm showing you this on a bare base and a bare face, so you'll be able to kind of see how these products work. Now, you continue with your makeup application, and if you noticed as you're doing your makeup you need to add a little more coverage, then you would go ahead and reapply and blend as necessary. Okay, so next I'm going to be moving to under eye circles. Now, you might say that I don't have them, but when you look down you can really see that I have them because I don't get enough sleep. And you know, I don't know if any of us do, but more power to you if you can, but I don't. Now, a lot of people make the mistake and think that when they're covering their under eye circles, they need to just go back and forth, and that's it. That's all they want to do. It may help you in some cases, but most of the time it's just going to create a really bright raccoon eye. And once you continue with your makeup, eventually it sometimes balances out. But if you start out the right way, then you'll do like so much more for your condition if you just follow these few tricks. Okay, so again, I'm using the MAC Prolongwear Concealer. I find that's a great concealer. It doesn't settle into fine lines or anything, and it stays. First, I'll add you a tip. If you are planning on doing something that you need all day coverage or extra coverage, I recommend using a primer first. So take your primer and just prime your under eye area. It can be any eyeshadow primer, and that'll extend the length of wear that you'll get from your concealer. But for the purposes of this, I'm not going to do that step right now. So for that, I'm just using my Kirkland Signature series. It's a dome-shaped brush. You can get this brush shape in any type of brand, but when you go to apply concealer to your under eye circles, you're gonna need to look down. And by looking down into a mirror, you'll actually see the areas that are gonna be darkest or the areas that need to be most addressed. So to do that, I'm just gonna be looking down, and I'm gonna tap my concealer along those areas only right now. And I'm going to extend my concealer up into the hollow parts in this corner of my eye right here. And I'm going to use the brush just to slightly help smooth and blend that out, and then I'll finish up blending with my fingertips. And I'll carry the concealer across like I mentioned, and as you can already see, this is where most people stop. They leave the whole raccoon effect and they don't really address further blending this out. And I'm going to show you why that makes a difference. I actually even sometimes carry my concealer across the bridge of my nose, and it just brightens the entire area. Now, if you're using the right color concealer, you are going to see a much lighter appearance under your eyes right away. You can already see that my under eye circles are completely neutralized. Now, I look some kind of crazy, but the next step to proper concealing is actually going to be carrying your concealer. Instead of going straight across, you're going to carry it down in an angle towards your nose, just like this, in a triangle shape. I know I've mentioned it a million times, and it's called your youth triangle. And what that's going to do is that's going to balance out all of this concealing, and it's going to lift the center plane of your face. This is especially great if you have maturing skin or a maturing face and you notice that your face is starting to sink in. One of the #1 signs of youthfulness, when you look at someone who's maybe younger or a child even, they have such puffy, just really full cheeks. I mean, the cheek area from here to here is just so full. Fullness in this inner triangle of your face is a sure sign of youth. So again, if you have an aging face, you're just gonna apply your concealer down the shape of the youth triangle, just like this, and then you're just gonna kind of blend it all out, extending and radiating from that center portion. And I take it across my nose because that knocks out my nose concealing. All right, so right away, even though it looks some kind of like really bright right now, again, remember, this is just your base, and we're gonna continue to address concealing issues as we go. But this has already just completely brightened this entire center section of my face. Kind of gives you that Kardashian glow a little bit. You can also carry your concealer just lightly above your brow bones if you want to, and that'll help highlight and lift this area out and make your brow bones a little more defined. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to move on to another area of concealing. Alright, so on this side of my face right here, I have an active breakout, and right now you can see it's really red, it's really irritated, it's almost like stoplight red, and this is going to be something that you might want to do correcting on. If you have, for example, acne scarring, if you have acne pigmentation issues, I recommend using a green based concealer, and for the purposes of this, I'm just using this palette right here. You can get any kind, they have them at Target. Sonia Kashuk makes a great one. This is just the Sephora palette corrector, and it's 4 shades, but what you're going to want to do, and I'm just using the same Sephora concealer brush, you're going to want to take the green shade or a green eyeshadow, even if you have that, you can use that, and you're just going to take it and you're just going to tap it over the red blemish. And then you're just going to pat it away with your fingertips. And you can already see it just kind of looks a little bit green still, but that's okay because we're going to work on blending it. So right now what I've done is I've canceled out the redness and the reddish tones with a green based concealer. Now from there, if you're working with a cream concealer, I do recommend sticking with a cream concealer. For that, I'm going to be using Bobbi Brown, and this is the creamy under eye concealer. It looks like this. And I'm just going to take a tap of that on my concealer brush, and I'm going to put it over that green concealer that I just used, and I'm just going to blend it away with my fingertips. Now if you wanted to get into things like brightening, this is another really great multi-use product. It's the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Concealer, and you can use this for the same things that I just did, brightening the under eye area, especially if you have fair skin or medium toned skin. This will actually help give you that nice healthy glow or radiant glow. I still recommend applying this using the same youth triangle technique on both sides, blending out one way or the other. And another thing that I really like to use this for, and unfortunately the tip on mine broke, you can see this part came apart, so I did have to decant some of it into a clean jar. But what I do is I take a little bit of this, and using any brush really, whichever one you're comfortable with, to address nasolabial folds. I got mine hereditarily, unfortunately, but some people do tend to have thicker cheek folds or creases right here. So when you smile, as you get older, your face starts to kind of droop a little bit, and basically all the collagen and things like that begin to rearrange in your face and go to other areas, just like every other part of your body will rearrange. But the collagen will start to rearrange in that portion of your face from years and years of smiling and talking, and you'll notice that you'll start to get a little bit hollow through here. Well, this is a great product, or basically any concealer that's a few shades lighter than your skin tone, to help kind of counterbalance the effect of the creases. So what you want to do if you're dealing with nasolabial folds is you're going to look at the fold area, and you can see mine a little bit more when I look down, but you're going to apply a brightener just below, and you can see I've kind of just tapped that on, and I'm going to repeat that same step on this side. This side is actually not as prominent as this side, but I'm doing it just below the fold. You don't want to actually conceal on top too, because the purpose of this, we're going to be bringing this portion of the fold forward to try to basically visually level it out with the top. So if you conceal the top, you're basically going to put everything back on the same plane. I hope that makes sense, but all I'm saying is you've got 2 planes. You want to visually bring one forward without putting yourself back on the other one. So we're going to add light to this area. And actually I also do that to my chin, because sometimes I just feel like my chin is a little bit hollow right through here. So I actually apply what's left just across my chin. So now is where we start the blending. You're just going to blend across that area. And then from this point right here, you're actually going to take the brightener and you're just going to pat it below that fold and just lightly let it come to the top, but you're not actually applying it to the top fold. We could do it in the creases of your nose, because chances are if you're dealing with nasolabial folds, you're also going to have this issue right in here where it's a little bit hollow as well. So basically I feel like I'm just kind of pushing it up into that kind of pocket right there. And then I'm going to continue brightening around the remainder of my face. And just run the rest of the brush off. Okay, so I think you can see right away on this one right here, because it's not as deep or prominent as this one pretty much always visibly just disappears completely. This one is much more pronounced. So what I'll sometimes do is I'll go back in and I'll do like a second coat, but there's really not too much you can do for it short of going and actually getting fillers or something like that for your face. So I mean, you have to make that personal decision for yourself. But there is a lot that you can do with just a product. See? I mean, you can really see how that really lifts and brightens that area. Okay, so basically those are my creative concealing tips. Another thing that you might want to try too, and I have this, it is the Benefit Eye Bright pencil. You can use something like this. It's like a violet toned eye pencil to apply a bit of this to the inner corners of your eyes to bring brightness to the area. You can also hit the tips of your brow bone to kind of raise your brow out. And I'll go ahead and show you what I'm talking about really quickly. I'm just going to use my brush. I'm going to apply a little bit of this to the inner corner of my eye. You can see how that just automatically brightens up the inner corner of my eye. And doing the same along your brow bone is almost like a visible, kind of like a brow lift, because it's just going to bring some light to the area of the brows, and it just makes your brows look a lot, I don't know, you can see it. It just makes them look a lot more lifted and youthful. So obviously my face looks a bit silly because I have no bronzer, I have no blush or anything like that. The purpose of this was just basically to show you the effects that good concealing can have or give when you're trying to cover problem areas or blemishes. So hopefully this video has helped you in some way, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!